Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Hello. Hello. Yeah. So if you messaged me yesterday, I got back to some stuff today and I haven't caught up on grading. Normally my Mondays are my time to do a lot of that. And AWS went down. And yeah, and then so was Canvas. So um if that impeded our normal communication, I just want to let you know I apologize, but I'm catching up on things today. Please come see me if that disrupted anything for you, and we'll figure out a way forward. I'm sure that everything's fine, but I don't believe we had anything due last night. And that's usually when I get the slew of messages. So, all right, let's start by opening up Maya, going ahead and powering on. And we're working on Bender, right? Right, okay. Okay. Um, let's see here. What I was hoping for, and there's always wiggle room, but that we had fully unwrapped Bender by class today. Is that looking pretty on point for us? Okay, good, good, good. I'm gonna give everybody probably about, let's say 15 minutes to pull up your bender, do any last touches, or this is the time that you can ask me about unwrapping questions or maybe other questions you're stuck on. So just for a few minutes, while people trickle in. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna move on towards materials and rendering for the rest of the assignment. And I mean, then we're breezy. I think we're good to go, right? Okay. All right. Okay, so let's pause that. Okay. All right. So this is really where hopefully we're at, and if not, you still got time, don't worry. Um, what I'll be checking for the grade is that we don't have any n-gons hiding anywhere. A common place for n-gons will be sometimes these caps where you might have had a hole and you put a cap, that's an n-gon. Another common place for n-gons are if you've added an edge loop somewhere and then removed it but didn't remove the verts. That's another common one. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that you should check on before you export because this will impact your material part of your grade. Let's say that we did this and you've got, oops, daisy, and you've got kind of verts all over the place. I'm going to show you really quickly. Here's how you can get rid of them quickly. Highlight all your verts and just without hitting anything else, hit backspace. It'll remove any of them that are floating that are not attached to a quad. Really clean and fresh. So, hey, none of those n-gons will exist. I'll be checking on your UVs. I'll be looking for stretching. I don't have any here, but stretching can look a little insidious sometimes. Like, let's say these guys here uh, might look like this. More Beetlejuice, less checkerboard, right? And that happens from when people will say, like, you apply a planer to it, oops, and you don't unwrap the whole thing, right? Like, we just unwrap part of it, you unwrap the part of it, and you accidentally leave the cap here. That is a real common way for people to like make this mistake. So that's what I'm looking for, that we don't have any stretching, no n-gons, and that your UV space from 0 to 1 is packed pretty tight, pretty tight. This is pretty good. Yes, you can have some space in here. No one's coming down on you for that. But what I don't want to see is a lot of unused space or everything's kind of small and spread out everywhere, but it's in there. Something that I enjoy but don't come down on you too hard is consistency in the scale of all of these. For example, I don't have one piece that has a much different resolution than the rest of it. But if your UVs are full and you don't have anything overlapping and the space is tight, I won't really come down on you for that as part of a grade. There is a place for when you would do something like that in the production space. And usually that has to do with camera work. For example, if you were building a first-person shooter or a first-person camera, and your players walk up to a lot of your environment, meaning they see things pretty up close. And let's say a piece of the environment is a statue, right? This like grand statue. And when your player walks up to the feet, it's right in the camera's face. But when they look up at the head, that's pretty far away. I would give a lot more UV space to the feet and to the spaces that are in front of the player than I would things that are far away, built based off of how my levels build. So that's a scenario, for example, where I might actually prioritize higher resolution in certain things than others. So yes, it does exist, but it's usually decided, like there's a reason for it. Okay, next up. When you do a little cleanup, make sure there's no UV or no engons, no floating verts, and your UVs are good. Let's make sure that your mesh, your bender, is center of the world. That's X and Y and Z. Now I have him actually standing on the ground. You should have him standing on the ground too, because unless we're building a game where Bender is flying through space and he needs to tumble from that pivot, we want to make sure that his zero of his mesh is at his feet. Zero on the Y is really just the ground. Anything -0, like -1, is below the ground. That's just kind of the area that, or the space that we're kind of thinking of when we have characters, right? If it were a barrel, maybe the barrel flies through the air for some reason. So in which case we wouldn't treat it that way. All right. Now also the pivot. You can either center the pivot here. I'm going to actually take it off of center so you can really see this part. You could either center the pivot by just hitting the center right here, and that'll make him put him like right in the middle of the whole mesh. Or you can put the pivot at 0, where you put it down on the actual grid, in which case I actually recommend that you use an orthographic view, hold down X while you move it, and it'll snap to the grid. I think I usually prefer this when I'm doing baking. This is something we're not going to do it fully this assignment. We're going to start with this assignment. But we'll be dealing with multiple meshes that have to share a pivot. So controlling and editing the pivot is an important skill that you should at least practice in this assignment. So I will accept a mesh with either, you know, at the object view, centered to itself. Okay, come on. Centered to itself or centered to the world. Choose object center or world center. Either one of those is okay. Yes. How do we move the pivot? So there is like a center pivot button you could use. That'll just center it to him, right? But if you want to manually control it, hit D as in dog, D as in deputy, D as in do it, lady. There we go. Okay. And now you can just move it as you'd like. Holding X while you move it will snap it to the grid. That's actually true of any time you engage with the move transform. Now hit D as in dog again to toggle that off, and now you can use your move transform as needed. Yep. All right. All of your meshes should be one. It should be one. I will accept a world where what you do is have Bender's arms as a separate piece. I will accept this as well, but keeping it all together is going to be the easiest for you. But all these guys, let's combine them. Delete history. I'm going to remove Bender there. We're going to delete these histories. Bender arms. Well, hold on. SM underscore Bender arms. SM underscore Bender, Bender body, whatever, right? I'll accept this as also an export if you would like. Why would you do this? I don't know. Maybe you want to pose him, in which case let's center that pivot. I'm going to move it up so that if I rotate him, it rotates more like Frankenstein. Um, this is like the other way that I will accept him. And if you'd like to, you can be like, Father, help, or whatever you want to do here. I'm gonna just leave him down because this is fine for the grade. Okay. Either will work okay. Cool. Now, select the meshes that you plan to export. Make sure that you've deleted history and you've frozen your transforms. And make sure that they're named something that is not cylinder or cube or polygroup or whatever that you, and it's okay if you name it something that will work for you. SM underscore is a nomenclature or a naming convention or jargon, whatever word you prefer there, for static mesh underscore blah. When you work in big projects, having tags like this help you find, I need to find all static meshes with this. So SM underscore pulls up the list of all of them for you, depending on what editor you're using. Okay. Once you're here, click File, Export Selection, not Export All. Export All will export everything, including your transforms and whatever floaties you have flying around. So just make sure you only select what you're exporting and click Export Selection. Make sure the file type is set to FBX. Sometimes export settings will get a little funky with FBXs, in which case we'll revert to OBJ, but start with FBX first. Then let's call him Bender. We could put SM underscore Bender. And save it somewhere you'll find it. It's going to put it by default in the scenes folder of whatever project you're in. So if you're not managing which project you're in, it'll go to your default. It doesn't really have to go in that project. Just make sure you know where it's going so you can find it in a second. We're going to export it and then pull it back into something else. So, you know, if you want to be a real hot mess, put it on your desktop, right? Let's go chaos. Fine, fine. All right. Now, for the fun part. But all of this is fun, Nato. You're right. Okay. Let's pull up the Substance Painter, Substance 3D Painter. Quick review. We are not opening an FBX. We are creating a new project and importing an FBX. Kind of like you would make a new Photoshop document and import a PNG or a JPEG. So the FBX and the OBJs, those are really agnostic file types. You can move those between editors. But Substance projects can only be opened by Substance. So we're going to make a Substance file by clicking New, right? Let's click on the template, Unreal Engine Starter Assets. And then in the file, go find your Bender bot. Go find your beautiful Bender boy, wherever you put him. We can leave the document resolution and we can leave DirectX and all these things alone. We're not using a tile workflow. That's different. I do not need an auto unwrap import, so I'm unclicking that. I don't know why I was clicking. And we're going to click OK. There we go. Now, hopefully, if everything is behaving, you should have your Bender and your unwrap on the right. If sometimes here, unwraps get awry. Like you're like, I did the unwrap. I exported it correct. It's coming in funky. If that's happening, try exporting the OBJ. That usually resolves it. But it has something to do with a setting either on export or import. It's sometimes we can't figure out where. So that'll solve it pretty quickly. Okay. All right. Does anybody need help getting to this point? Okay. Yes. Mhm. Oh, combining them?
Yes.
No, it'll preserve the UV unwrap as well. That's because you have them all on separate, you've unwrapped them separately in 0 to 1, so now they're on top of each other. When you select all of them, see?
Okay.
But you know what you can do at this point?
Mhm.
Select all these faces. Yeah. And go to layout, falling down, layout. There you go. Okay. Yes. Yeah, you can have some help real quick. What's up? Oh, select your object mode of the mesh that you're exporting. Scroll down. Okay. Good question. I'm going to actually pop that up here because that is a pretty common question. And I think, you know, we might blame ourselves if we see this. So when you do your export right here, make sure one that it's object modes that are being selected. You're not just exporting faces specifically. Then go down to when it says export selection here, the FBX, you don't see it right away. So scroll on down and there she is. Sometimes FBX is even missing in that stack. If that's you, I could fix that too. It's just a little extra. No big deal. No big deal. I saw your hand up. Did you need help still? Okay, one more and then we'll move on. Okay. Yeah. Oh, we haven't. Oh, yeah, we have. We've done that just now. Click new. File. Select. Wherever you put them. Click OK. Is that your unwrap? Okay. Okay. You don't remove cuts, you sew. So you can cut something apart or you can stitch them together. Okay. All right. Good questions, everybody. Okay. Now, this part, y'all were probably pretty familiar. You know how to get dirty, down and dirty in the painting. I saw you do it. Good job. Now, one of the things that makes Substance Painter so powerful is its uses of mesh maps that are generated through a process called baking. Now, the baking process is most often used for high resolution to low resolution mesh pipeline, which is like why in AAA and high budget art pipelines, things look so much more detailed than they really are in geometry, right? So we are going to do that process in the next assignment, but we're going to start by just getting used to the bake process here. So we're going to perform a bake on Bender that is going to use himself as his bake reference. Now, that doesn't make a lot of sense right now because we usually have high resolution models that we steal information from to put it on a low resolution model. This is a low resolution model, and we don't have a high poly sculpture of a Bender Adonis or anything like that. We just have him. And this is okay. This is we could still get information out of this. If you notice in the material, on the material drop down, which is really just the type of viewport that we're seeing here, on either side, really. You have lighting, which is render it with lighting as we see it and as we understand it. Single channels are closer to what would be exported. Mesh maps, though, are created. And right now, the mesh maps here have very little to no information. There's no ambient occlusion, there's no normal, there's no curvature, there's really nothing here. These mesh maps right here are used as different types of masks through generators and other cool features in this program. So we're going to create these mesh maps by performing a bake. Let's go ahead and put this back to material. I think M is the hotkey for material too. And next to edit, mode. You'll see that there's a little croissant next to Bake Mesh Maps, little bakey shop. Oh, that's delicious, isn't it? So we're going to click Bake Mesh Maps, and we're going to get this window. We're going to get this window. The output size is the resolution of the bake for like export too. So when you're doing test bakes, you probably want to reduce this if you have a computer that needs to try real hard. But we're not going to have a test bake here because we're going to bake him to himself. There's really only one answer than possible answers. So we're going to leave that alone. We'll leave pretty much all of this alone. And where it says use low poly mesh as high poly mesh, click true. This is the only time in this class we'll actually do that. This is the only time. Would we do that in the field? Sure. If you have an art style that is keeping everything really boxy and kind of low poly in style, but you want all those bake maps, totally fine to do that. But I'm going to show you how to do it like a boss later. So we'll keep this on here, click that true. And then you can just go ahead and click bake selected textures. Just click true. And you're going to see it do a little process of creating information for us. It's pretty cool. Shouldn't take too long because he's not too intense. And then you can click return to painting mode or the paintbrush, or you could go to mode and go to painting, or you can hit F9. 4 ways to get to that next space, right? We'll go back to painting. Now, if you noticed something, we've got like shadow information on your map now. And some things feel a little bit more rooted in lighting, like there's like these little shadow cracks in his material there. And you'll notice that we've got kind of a shadow baked into over here too. Yeah, that's the ambient occlusion showing up. If I were to go ahead and scroll on down into mesh maps, there's the ambient occlusion right there. I could see it. Pretty cool, huh? Okay. Now, first off, just doing this, I think, helps your whole material feel just a little bit more grounded in itself. But those maps as masks, super fun. So I'm going to start by just kind of creating a material that looks like Bender's colors. Let's see here. I have Bender the robot, the PNG here. I'm going to put that right there. And that's fine for now. And something that I do think is kind of cool about this software that doesn't seem to be true in like other editors is that I can actually color pick off of it. Like I don't have to import an image to be able to color pick off of it like other Adobe products. So I'm just going to do a fill because I want my whole Bender to be one color. And if I were to pick a color, I think I would pick probably this like middle bluey gray. So I'm going to just use my little color picker here and I'm going to do that. And now I noticed too that if I were to color pick where he's lit, it's a little lighter. So I'm going to just notice that it kind of jumped from here to here. And for me, I'm going to like split the difference. Is that what you should do? Whatever, do what you want. Okay. So that is Bender mostly in color. Now, you do not have to make him metallic. I feel like this is sort of a space for you to freely interpret how you would like him to be. You can have him be a little bit more like a toy, or you can make him metallic, whatever you like, really. I'm gonna go ahead and give him some metallic because I think it looks cool, but that's just me. Okay. And if you want to, you can make him real shiny or not. Do whatever feels right. We're just kind of making a base thing for you here. Then what we can do, if you want to, we can do another fill layer. This time I'm going to pick a color that's his arms. And then I'm going to apply a black mask. And then using the polyfill tool, I am going to fill his arms as such, and legs too. Now his what is this part right here would not be that. So let's go to black here. You. do I have him? Ah, there we go. You and you. There we go. There we go. And kind of a nice little base for Bender. Okay, now for you and for funsies for you, I'd like for you to do a pass of coloring him any way you really want to. But now for the assignment part that I do require for the grade. And that is going to be the use of a generator. Generators, what are those? Well, they generate effects based off of the mesh maps that we baked using various map types, right? One of the most common ones is going to be the ambient occlusion, right? Because imagine how valuable being able to mask off areas that are cracked or in cracks or in places that maybe dirt might accumulate or paint would be more likely to rub off. That can actually really help us tell a more interesting story. Something about 3D modeling, especially in the game space or real-time rendering space, is that beautifully pristine and clean models have a place in industry, and they're usually advertisement. They're usually motion graphics or maybe selling of a product kind of directly. Like if I'm going to see a Nike tennis shoe spinning around, I don't want it scuffed up, right? But when you're building things in a world that's supposed to feel lived in, something feels uncanny about clean and pristine models, right? Like, I mean, I feel like that's part of the reason some like the back rooms and liminal space games feel so eerie is because they're like kind of too clean. Like you don't want to touch anything. Feels uncomfortable even, right? So, all right. So there's like kind of a breaking of the rule to make my point in a way. If you want your material to feel kind of grungy or lived in, you have to use these generators. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a flat cover on Bender that is going to resemble dirt and mud. So we're going to start really simple with just applying a flat color. And this color should not have any metallic on it. So we're going to turn on metallic. And it should not be smooth at all. It should be rough, right? As if he was covered in powder or dust. And I'm going to pick a color that's going to be light, but maybe a little more dirt-like, sand, dusty, something like that, right? Does that feel like if he had a perfect dust on him, that's what it would feel like? So that's all I did. That's literally all I did. And so what I have here is clean, dirty, clean, dirty. As if I were thinking of him as 100% clean and 100% dirty, right? If I were to apply a black mask to him, I could, using the mask, paint on where I want the dirt to show up. And that is powerful. You might find yourself needing to do that later. But for now, I want to use a generator instead. So I've applied a black mask. It's for sure there, just hiding. And where the mask is, we're going to right click and go down to Add Generator. Whoop. Okay. Well, a generator's been added, nothing is working, but we need to pick a generator. So if I click this little button here, U:generator is going to pull up the generators that are here. I know which one I'm going to pick, but there are a few in here you can play with. So I'm going to go to dirt, the dirt one, because I made dirt and I want it to behave like dirt. So I'm going to click dirt. And now I've got something akin to, Bender after a construction job, right? And in these settings, I can even adjust these masks to kind of play with how intense I want the dirt fall off. Yes, yes. Grunge scale. The scale is how big I want it here. And now that painting that we do maybe to hide some more happens if you see something like repeating grunge. If you make the scale large, which means it like zooms out, you could really see the repeated pattern. That's ugly. That's gross and ugly. So we might want to go in and manually start stamping out some of that. That's a little pro tip that people do, or scale this so that it's not so obviously repeating. Get a nice feel for this here. Okay, so that's the dirt one, a common one. And yeah, you don't need to make them crazy dirty. Just a little bit of dirt. Sometimes a little goes a long way. But besides dirt, we have some other stuff here. We've got, I think another one of the fiberglass one is well liked. Kind of creates a nice fiberglass pattern. Um, Drippings feels a little bit more rust-like. So if I wanted to come back here and maybe give this a more rust-like color, you could play with that, or bled. Just kidding. Let's keep going back. Besides dirt, what else is in here? There are curvature, drippings, fiberglass. Ooh, metal edges. This is a fun one. Now, this is closer to like how if you had maybe something that was painted and then the paint wears revealing metal underneath. So really, we'd probably want to flip the layer of you would apply this to a metal material rather than the dirt material. So like I'll just do that really quick. And let's remove the mask. Remove the mask. I'll drop this down here. Here. I'm going to group these together too so that I can do them both at the same time. My group, Control G for folder. And I will apply a black mask to it as if it were its own kind of layer. And in here, we'll add that generator. We'll do metal edges. And you'll notice that the metal is revealing underneath, right? Yeah. So for your assignment, I'm going to let you material bender how you like, but you are required to have at least one generator applied to your mesh. You can pick the one that you like, however you like to do it. And also that will require you to successfully perform the bake process. So those are the parts that I'm really looking for. This allows you to start telling a story with your mesh. Was he dirty? Was he a toy that had paint ripped off or rubbed off of him and stuff? So hopefully what you'll do here is have fun. That's the goal, to have fun. But I won't really require you to match reference on the reference that I've provided. I've seen some iridium benders. I've seen some people got fancy, got glow in the dark. Some things got some emissive working and playing around with it. I really hope you have fun with it. But the rendering, though, I'm going to stretch. We're going to stretch a little bit and do a little bit more requirement on the rendering. Now, once you've materialed him how you like, and I think I'm going to like increase this so that I've got just a little bit more to play with here. We're going to go to the the rendering mode. Or you can go here to rendering or whatever. You may use a background. You may not use the default background. This is the background you can't use. The one that's here. You must choose a different background. In the display settings, which is the little like monitor with the gearbox inside, this one, we can actually click environment and panorama and you can choose a different background. I don't mind most of these. This is a common one. I think there's something about it feeling like Mars and him being a robot in space. This one's often used. I won't force you to use one over the other, just not that one. You must change this to something that you find cute. Next, there is something that you can't do. You can't do that. No more tiny benders or barrels, no more little shots. There's a few reasons that people do this, and usually it boils down to a lack of confidence. Sometimes it's a story, but you didn't make that environment, so that's not what we're showing off. You made Bender, and that's the part we're showing off. And I understand that. Even if you feel that there's something kind of quote unquote and I use quote unquote here, wrong with your Bender bot, I would still rather see it up close so that I can help you diagnose what might be happening. And I can give you some feedback that's actually valuable. Don't hide from your mistakes. It's okay. You're in school. This is a place to make them. So I want to see a shot of him taking up most of the screen real estate. Then we're going to talk about angles, camera angles. A little bit of camera grammar, film grammar here. Now, we've got the wide angle shot. We're not doing wide angle. We're not doing extreme close-up. My goodness, does he look dramatic? We're going to do a middle range shot here. And you may do an up shot if you'd like for him to feel a little bit more powerful. Boom, he's standing over. Look at that. Look how majestic he looks with the, dang, I'm having some fun with this composition. Or if you want him to feel like kind of little, looking down, he's feeling disempowered. He's going through it right now, guys, right? You can play around with that a little bit. I have seen some shots with Bender dead on like this. This is actually kind of funny. That's terrifying. There's something about finding him in the woods, just standing there looking at you, that is like low-key scary. Yeah, this counts. This is okay. You can do this if you'd like. And then you can play with either a middle shot where he is center of the composition, or a 3/4. I will allow either. No other ones though. Middle or 3/4. I want to see that you made a decision, and it's okay with either one. It can be a 3/4 up shot, power stance. He's pensive, he's thinking, he's considering what oblivion really is. Can we wrap our minds around it? Oh, pensive Bender. Okay. All right. Then simply render your shot, save render. If you do a PNG, it will render your model transparent as if to place any background you would like in another. Super handy if you're building portfolio work or website work, or you want to make a 3D model to be a logo. Like, these are kind of cool reasons that you would do that. Or a JPEG will also render the background. Now, fun fact, there are more settings in here besides just the background settings. And some of them are pretty cool, like post-processing effects. So you could do a little bit of color saturation or post work here, brighter or less bright, unless for some reason it's not rendering. I don't know why it wouldn't be. Oh, turn it on. We can turn on, oh yeah, let's do color correction. I want higher saturation, higher contrast. That's awful. Low contrast. Oh, that's very filmy. Brighter, etc. Depth of field. It's disabled because of the rendering that it is, so that won't work. Tone mapping. You could just switch this to like a preset here and you'll get a reasonably good effect. Reinhard, tone mapping. And then my other favorites, the glare. Good old lens flare. Okay, maybe not that much more. Kidding. Less. Different types of glare, lens flare. I like to kind of power them on so that I could see what they look like when I change them, but then like reduce them in intensity. Oh, that's pretty. But like calm down with that. A little bit of lens flare. And for anybody who wants a little bit more drama, have a vignette, play around with it. Have some fun. Have some fun with this. I'm not really going to grade you on whether or not you use them. So if you go dramatic, this is probably the most appropriate place to do that, because it's a little silly to do it on your portfolio work. Okay. But I love the idea of you playing. So, all right. That's what I'll be looking for your final submissions. You'll give me your Substance Painter file for the model. And you'll give me your JPEG for your showcase. You don't have to give me your JPEG on the modeling assignment, but you may, because I cross-reference them. If you post in the showcase, it counts for the whole thing. So you're fine there. All right, any questions? Any questions? You excited? I hope you're excited because I just unlocked how to make your models look super dope. Okay. All right. We're gonna use the rest of class, which is about an hour, to go ahead and finish your homework / work on it and have me help you. If you want to leave early, I'm gonna go ahead and just do, I guess, the in-class exercise now. I'll publish that and let you guys post. So just make sure you post on the in-class exercise before you go. And I'll stop recording and then tell you what that's gonna be.